The Daily Mail is leading with smiles that say King is going back to work. The Guardian, scale of teacher shortage crisis in schools revealed. The Eye, toxic gas surge from US chicken farms, apparently. We'll get to that in 2 seconds. The Times has got the King story returning to public life. The Telegraph, the return of the King. Those were your front pages. Right, so we saw there that most of the front covers for Saturday are going with the King. And good news, Josh.
Yep, great news. We've obviously been affected. He's wearing, here he is on the Daily Mail, he's wearing a pink shirt. You and I are wearing our pink shirts because we care and love him. Leo has gone with the black T-shirt.
The colour of the Republican.
Really a massive sign of disrespect there. But, yeah, it's good news. He's got cancer. This seems like the treatment's going well enough for him to return to public life.
Yes.
Looking at the Daily Mail, who've just gone for the big overall photo, I don't know if this is just me, just having a look at Camilla, and I hope this isn't too disrespectful, but I think she's getting fitter.
Josh, I don't think that's really the
Do you think she's getting
focus
fitter?
of this story.
I'm not answering that question.
I'm just saying, I think she's getting fitter, and that could also be why he's looking so happy.
Right. Do you mean fitter as in more athletic, or do you mean in the kind of laddish
My
kind of...
street patois. Look, they're zooming in on her. I think she's looking more attractive as she's getting older. And I think King Charles is like, poor. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be disrespectful, cancer serious and the King and all that. I just think
Leo,
there could be some sexual things.
Does this fall under the bracket of treason?
I don't know if she's getting more attractive or if Josh is just, his standards are gradually lowering. Until
it's like no, I think she's looking fit.
No, she looks wonderful. Leo,
it's great that he's he's fit enough to return to duties.
Yes.
And the royal family have been hammered with health problems over the last
Someone's getting hammered.
Josh Howie. I'm going to have to rein you in.
Sorry.
But why is he not working on being immortal? If you're that rich, I think he owns the Duchy of Cornwall or something,
yes.
or an organic farm. I know there's some sort of organic farming going on, but he's got money. I've seen his house. He's definitely rich. So why not work on invest instead of investing in greenhouses and climate change and stuff? Invest in some sort of immortality.
Well, I'll tell you why, because that is not possible. You see all these billionaires desperate to find the elixir of life and to live forever. It cannot happen.
It is possible, and also I think we're going to crack it. I think we're
not lobsters.
I think the people that are getting old now will be the last people to get old. I think we're going to crack it because we need to, because we've got falling fertility in the West. So we need people to live longer, to work.
I'm sorry, Leo.
King Charles needs to work longer, but
yeah.
So he's back at work. His first official visit is to a cancer treatment centre.
Yeah.
That seems a bit like a busman's holiday type thing.
Yeah, but it's good. It's a positive story, isn't it?
I don't know if
he's well enough to do it, so it's inspirational.
I've got cancer. I'm being treated for cancer, and now I've got to go on my work day and go to a cancer treatment.
I don't think it was deliberate.
Of course it's deliberate. It just happened to be on the schedule. There was a cancer. No, they were like, it's too much cancer.
OK,
I'm just saying, go to a school or something.
Go to a school. OK, well, there's Josh Howie's advice. We're going to move on now to The Guardian. They have a different story. Leo, they're not going with the King.
Yeah,
surprise.
They've gone with a more Guardian-style story. So it says, scale of teacher shortage crisis in schools revealed.
Right.
So nearly 40% of teaching assistants cover classes, research has found. And this is a routine thing. It was introduced, teaching assistants in 2004. This rule was introduced that allowed them to sort of supervise a class if a teacher was off sick or had to leave for an emergency. And now it's just like a standard thing. So hundreds of thousands of pupils in England and Wales are being educated on the cheap by these low-paid teaching assistants. They earn as little as £14,000.
Yeah, that's a worry.
Because teachers are off sick or have quit. I didn't know we could do this. Why are we not just getting rid of all the teachers? And these people are so cheap. We can slash the school budget.
But they're not trained, they're not experienced, and they're not
trained.
They're not teachers, ultimately.
Teachers are essentially babysitters paid for by the state. So tell what you've got to open a book, you've got to open a website, point at a blackboard.
Yeah.
How difficult can
I know you're being facetious, Leo, but the skill of teaching...
I remember school.
Yeah, but perhaps your teachers are not representative. Perhaps your teachers might be responsible for the way you turned out. Maybe...
You're denigrating the Scottish education system.
Yeah, well, I'm denigrating the education system that produced you. Yeah. But I don't know what...
You hired me.
Josh, what do you think? Teaching's bloody hard, by the way.
Well, this is it. After homeschooling, Teachers should be paid way more. I always joke, but it is super duper insanely hard to actually impart any
Tell
information.
Leo that. He doesn't believe it.
They can get paid more if they work really hard and get to a private school.
Is that your plan?
Do teachers at private schools pay more?
I've already been through school.
No, but with your daughter, I'm
too old to go back.
Leo, I have to say,
you're going to send the private school.
I think they should pay teachers twice as much, give them half the timetable, so they can actually prepare and it becomes a competitive job, and that solves all of society's ills because you get much better education.
But you can say that about any job, and it's like, where's this money going to come from? There's loads of teachers. The problem is that they're allowed to go off sick. Now, if you've got a job with sick pay, people will get sick.
Well, no, but if you get vocational teachers, people who actually care about pedagogy, people who actually want to make the next generation better.
Pedos.
We don't want
pedagogues. So with your big words, right? Yeah. That's it. But yeah, look,
I'm right. No, I tell you why. Right. Because it does filter down to absolutely every other problem in society.
100% agree with you. No government is ever going to think that long term, or they tried to. To be fair, Michael Gove did try his best to improve the system. He did make some good changes, actually, to be fair. But, of course, make that investment there. But you're going to get the payoff is going to be 20 years from now. Yes. And governments don't think that long term. And it's a real shame. But I 100% agree with you. The good news is that schools, there are less people going to school because the numbers are on the decline.
Fewer.
So fewer teachers,
You see, and you would have known that if we'd have had a better education system.
That's private school.
Oh, that was private school.
I'm just warning you, private school doesn't necessarily
Yeah, you think private
either.
school is the elixir, but I tell you what, I've taught at private schools. Right. Some of my colleagues were pretty dim.
Right.
I'm not naming names. Maybe I'll do that when I want to sell some
Martin
schools.
was a teacher. Our producer here was a teacher with you as well, wasn't he?
He was a teaching assistant. Anyway, we're going to move on now. I hope he's not watching this. We're going to move on to the Eye. Josh, what's going on front cover of the Eye?
Toxic gas surge from US-style chicken farms supplying UK supermarkets.
Right, what's going on here?
We love chickens. We eat over 1 billion chickens a year in this country. We love them cheap, £5 for a big old large chicken, and they create a lot of ammonia through their urine and their faeces, and this is creating an environmental issue. The actual ammonia has got... Oh, who was that? Was that King Charles who got angry about me dissing... I was complimenting your wife.
That was a glitch in the Matrix.
It was just the glitch in the Matrix. It was because you were talking about the chickens.
It wasn't the chickens. Do you think they're controlling everything?
I think they control the Matrix.
The ammonia has gone down since 2017, the amount that we as a country are producing. Yeah. But in these areas with these big chicken farms, like Norfolk, they've got a couple, they've gone up like 40%. So if you live around a big chicken farm, you could have some real issues.
Well, not only that, I mean, there's the image on the front cover of those chickens packed together. They don't look comfortable, Leo. Maybe we should just move towards a vegan diet.
They're going to be even less comfortable when they're in my oven. I mean, I think it's great. Everybody could be like, oh, we should, the chickens should live free range, and the teachers should get paid twice as much. But in the real world, chicken is now meat, protein is now incredibly cheap by historical standards. As a portion of your salary, the amount, compared to like the 1950s or whatever, that you can buy a chicken for, which means that poor people have access to high quality protein, which makes a huge difference.
And what about the chickens?
People's health. Chickens, man, they're chickens. They're made out of meat. They should have thought about being made out of meat before they decided to be made out of meat.
They deserve a decent life. And if
they should go to public school.
Oh, but they should have, walking holidays and stuff. Just things that they should have a good life until you kill them and eat them. That's my view.
Well, how about encouraging wildfowling?
What about putting TVs in the... I actually worked in a turkey farm for a bit.
Did you?
They cram them all in.
They do?
Yeah. But if they put some TVs up and maybe we could hide chicken, and then they could watch GBNews, that would, help with us with the advertising.
And then they'd want to die. They wouldn't mind when they got the
Well, it depends who was on.
Watching headliners.
It's when you're on, Leo. OK, well, look, that's all we've got time for in this section. But coming up, Humza Yousaf insists that he won't be resigning. Sadiq Khan issues a grovelling apology. And the Home Office asks civil servants to move to Rwanda. Stay tuned.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
This new hate crime bill on women's issues, you think this is the least funny April Fool's joke in history?
Yeah, although the Scottish government and the Scottish police do seem to be trying to make a bit of a joke of it when, you know, their campaign Hate Hurts is fronted by a hate monster who's a sort of cuddly, bright red Muppet-style thing. And some of the things that Humza Yousaf said about it were from a soft play centre over the weekend. But yeah, it's really not a joke. It's not actually clever lawyers who know the wording of the law who enforce the law. It's the police. And the police have basically not been trained on this at all. There's a 2-hour online training course they're meant to have done, and lots of them haven't already done it. And we know from the way that the police have been talking about it that they're wildly overstretching what it might actually be to be, in particular, abusive, which is one of the words in the new law, and specifically on the issue of transgender identity. To claim that just noticing the fact that there are two sexes and that sex can't change is meant to be hateful, that, you know, even after years of trying to study it, I can't understand why people hold this belief. But it's part and parcel of a pattern of legal measures that the Scottish Government has either introduced or has sought to introduce. So it tried to introduce gender self-ID, but that was overruled by Westminster because it was out of the power of the devolved government. It's still attempting to bring in a conversion therapy law, which sounds nice but isn't nice. It actually criminalises proper ethical treatment of gender-confused youngsters. They're trying to say that men who have certificates saying that they're women count as women for a particular measure to do with public boards. And then this hate crime law, which tries to make it really difficult for someone to talk in a factual, reality-based, clear, understandable way about all these measures. It all adds up to a sort of an authoritarian attempt to deny the fact that human beings are mammals and come in two sexes, and that recognising that matters for women's rights especially.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday, the 2nd of May,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections,
we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday, the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Saturday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. I'm still here with Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. And we're going to begin this section with the Telegraph. Humza Yousaf, pretty tenacious. He's sticking on, isn't he, Josh?
Sticking on well, yes. Yousaf insists he won't resign and will fight attempts to oust him. There are going to be 2 votes next week. One basically for him, but
no confidence.
No confidence. One for the government.
Yeah.
But he says it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have to go, even if he loses.
Right.
I think he might as well just stick in there. He would just be like, you know what, I don't care if you hate me.
Well, you know,
the boss.
the SNP has a bit of an authoritarian streak, so it would be at least in character. Leo, remind me, you're not a fan of the SNP, is that right?
No, and Humza Yousaf in particular, I mean, he was the person who brought through the ridiculous Hate Crime Act, which has been one of his catastrophic mistakes that's, you know, made him hugely unpopular with people. But it's not just that. I mean, he's not responsible for the gender laws as well, but, you know, that came through under Sturgeon.
Well, he wasn't exactly complaining about them.
Yeah, but the whole of the SNP have just, the last couple of years have just been, they've fallen off a cliff with, you know, there's the branch form arrests. So Peter Murrell, the husband of Nicola Sturgeon and the former, was he the treasurer or the chief executive or something of the SNP, he was re-arrested. They've rolled back the green rules. They said they were going to hit net zero by next Tuesday or something. So so that means the Greens have fractured with them.
And having their vote overridden by Westminster, that's very humiliating.
That was humiliating.
We now know that Labour is probably going to end up with majority seats in Scotland.
Exactly. Yes, they've squandered the majority. They've introduced rent caps that cause the rent to go up.
Yeah.
They've got soaring drug deaths because everybody would rather be dead than
Have they done
in Scotland.
anything good?
Tram, there was a tram that was...
There was a good tram, wasn't there?
There's a tram
somewhere.
I don't think there was, because they
that
said
costs
they
a
were
lot
going to
more money.
build. They were going to build a tram.
Yes.
Edinburgh Council, and it, I think we're several light years on.
There is a tram there now. I think it gets you to the air. I think, in spite of all that litany of failure, you can get to the airport 10 minutes quicker.
I think heroin's cheaper.
Oh, it is cheaper. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But alcohol is more expensive. And, and they launched. They said they were going to launch these ferries to take people to the islands in Scotland.
To Mersey.
And they launched the ferries. They said, "Oh, we got the ferries." They had a big photo opportunity. The ferries weren't finished. They painted on windows. So that's the level of Potemkin village we've got in Scotland.
Now, Josh, of course, as an outsider, you don't want to pontificate too much about Scotland, but I think from what Leo described, it does look like an absolute disaster for the SNP. But isn't it good to now we can finally break this one-party state, even if it is Labour? We can do something different for a while.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Labour's going to come in and maybe a few more Tory seats are going to actually make a difference to the idea of devolution. Like it was so tied up with this kind of nationalistic movement, but can they do local governance well?
Well, they had a bit of momentum a number of years ago, and it feels like this has really squandered it. Or the polling is suggesting of that. I mean, it's gone down. Support for Scottish independence has gone down over the past 5 years. So is there any chance they can reclaim that momentum?
Yeah, I mean, nationalism is a very, the sort of call of patriotism. Calling to people's hearts. That's always going to be an emotive. We saw it with Brexit. We see it, with other parties across Europe. That's something that calls to people beyond, oh, look, the economy's a shambles, and this is being mismanaged. That is primal urge to, for self-governance.
Yeah. That's what they should get back. That Humza should paint his face with woad and scream freedom in an Australian accent.
Maybe they should re-release. Braveheart. Yeah, put that back in the cinemas. It was in the cinema for years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe bring that in. If you want to hire me as a political advisor, that would be my advice.
Braveheart 2. This time it's personal.
Braveheart 2. There we go. Although didn't he get his entrails pulled out at the end of the first one?
Electric Boogaloo.
What's that?
Braveheart 2. I'm just
spitballing. You're riffing. I don't like this riffing.
Electric Boogaloo.
It's meaningless, Josh. We're going to move on now to the Daily Mail. Sadiq Khan is apologising, Leo. He should apologise for quite a few things.
Yeah, but this time he's issued a grovelling apology for suggesting that the chief rabbi's criticism of his Gaza ceasefire call was down to his Muslim-sounding name.
That's quite an allegation, isn't it?
Yeah, he said there'd be no equivalent response when Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham called for an immediate ceasefire. But Burnham could be a Muslim name. It could be one of the ISIS guys, like Burnham in a cage. That could be something that's... But yeah, Sadiq Khan said what motivated them to come out in the way they did against the Mayor of London and the Mayor of Greater Manchester. I'll give you a clue. He's not called Ahmed Bourani. He's called Andy Burnham, whereas I'm called Sadiq Khan. We'll give it a decade or two, and he will probably be called Ahmed Bourani with the demographic shift we're seeing. But yeah, he's had to issue this apology to the chief rabbi who, he accused.
I mean, it's really outrageous, isn't it? Just all this mind-reading thing. Like that, you see it a lot now. Like I take issue with something you've said, and therefore I'm going to intuit some kind of pernicious motive. That's what's happened here.
It was an incredibly unfair accusation against the chief rabbi.
Because they also work together.
Yeah, they've worked together on lots of interfaith outreach. Stuff. And the idea was, first of all, London's our capital city. London is also where most of the Jews in the UK live. And it's been the centre of these 6 months of hate marches.
Right, so it's more relevant than Manchester in this case, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and the idea, and also it was such a gentle criticism. All he said was, in a tweet, was, I met with Sadiq Khan, we had a great meeting, and I explained why I thought that ceasefire is a bad idea.
Yes.
That was all it is. So for him to sort of go out on this speech, and by the way, being interviewed by Mehdi, who's a very problematic individual himself, who has said a few very dodgy things, and then sort of go, oh, woe is me, and like this victimisation. Yes. Whilst accusing the chief rabbi, it's crazy.
So he's apologised?
He's apologised, rightly so, but why would he... And this is the thing, as you said, reading out that quote, this Ahmed Bourani, that's obviously something he said before or planned or written. Yeah. And
sounds scripted, doesn't it?
It sounds scripted, so he thought that was genuinely a good idea.
Is it possible that they can carry on working together? It's like if one of you guys suggested that I was secretly anti-Scottish, and I'm quite explicitly anti-Scottish,
the chief rabbi
I'd be really upset about it.
Is a very sort of gentle dude.
You can't call him a dude.
Yeah, he's just like, he's all about religion, and he's a very learned man.
Yes.
He's not a very sort of alpha male in the room type guy. He's sort of quite homely.
Right.
He's just a nice guy. So I imagine he will accept it in the effort to make peace with the world.
Well, of course he has to. Right?
He has to, yeah, because Sadiq Khan is going to be mayor again. He's still 19 points ahead.
Can I ask about that? I don't understand how he keeps winning. I mean, I genuinely don't, because it's such a terrible... He's never done anything good.
I agree with you, but this time there's just no real plausible alternative. It just seems like the Tories kind of gave up in their selection process.
Yeah.
I don't know Susan Hall particularly well, but she doesn't seem to be setting the world alight.
But he uses the fireworks to express his political views. Like, that's pathetic.
Yeah, but most people don't mind about stuff like that. And you've got to remember, London has changed a lot over the last, 20 years. So it's not the same. I'm not suggesting that, left-wing governments open the borders to put the thumb on the scales of democracy and tilt the electorate in their favour. But
really, because it sounds like a phrase you've thought about quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that actually Londoners could do a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Well, but who would you vote for instead then?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'd rather someone who worked for everyone and for everyone's concerns and didn't have politically partisan fireworks.
Probably the bucket.
For me, it's all about the fireworks.
Probably the Buckethead guy.
The Buckethead guy?
Yeah, the looting party.
Yeah, maybe. Certainly, actually, none of the major political parties. I'd go that far. All right, we're going to move on to the I now, and more on Rwanda. And Josh, every night there's a story about Rwanda, because this is the thing that Rishi wants as his legacy. That and smoking, and everyone has to do maths.
You know what they say, what Rishi wants, he...
Is that a phrase?
Got anything? No, I don't know.
Well, you can coin a phrase.
Yeah, what Rishi wants, he's going to get. But in this country, it's going to happen. Home Office asking civil service to move to Rwanda to oversee asylum scheme. This is the punishment for anybody in the Home Office who has spoken out against it.
Well, that's actually not bad.
It's like send them to Siberia.
Yeah, but the civil service is so sort of rife with problems. Actually, sending them away to Rwanda seems like
it's like a win-win. The thing is, it would be bad for our net immigration numbers, because it would be like more people moving away with more people coming in. So it's like it would not help the numbers.
But this does suggest, Leo, that he's serious about this, that he's actually going to go through with it.
Yeah, and at least he's asking before he sticks them on flights to Rwanda.
Yeah.
So it's a voluntary thing for the civil servants, which arguably it shouldn't be. But yeah, I think our asylum system is clearly broken. We've got mass travel and social media that we didn't have when the asylum system rules were made back in, whenever it was, the old days. And also the civil service are systemically woke and are ideologically committed to open borders. And, we've got human rights lawyers who know how to game the system. So the whole thing is completely corrupt and broken.
Yes, but what they're suggesting is that since all the asylum seekers, those who arrive illegally, will be processed in Rwanda, and even if their applications are successful, that doesn't mean they'll come back. In fact, they won't come back.
Yeah.
So actually, this will, we were talking about this the other night, but as a disincentive to the people traffickers, this could potentially work.
Well, we've seen already more people going into Ireland because to avoid the UK for exactly this reason. But it does seem a bit strange that the reason they'd be sending out these Home Office people is to train the local Rwandans. I thought the point was that it was just like a place to process, for them to wait whilst they were processing the application. I didn't realise that Rwanda itself was going to be processing these.
Yes, it looks like that's the case.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, OK, well, maybe it'll work. We shall wait and see. We're going to move on now to this story. This is in the Telegraph, and this is more on that fallout from the police officer who accused a man of being openly Jewish. What's the latest, Leo?
That's right. So this is the campaign against anti-Semitism.
Why are you getting all the Jewish stories?
I don't know, Josh.
You got the Scottish story.
Yeah, this is a real flip. Are we sitting in the right seats today?
No, we're just flipping it up. You've got to keep you on your toes.
Fair enough.
The campaign against anti-Semitism has cancelled their London march amid security concerns. So Gideon Falter, who's the chief executive of the CAA, had called for supporters to gather and walk through central London in defiance of the weekly anti-Israel protests. He was the guy who's threatened with arrest
for looking openly Jewish.
Openly Jewish.
And the thing about this is
it's a risk.
He made this very good point, which is, OK, well, so we're going to march, we're going to show solidarity. Walk in London, which any free citizen can do, apparently. But now he's saying it's, what, too dangerous?
Yeah. You're allowed to do it. If you've got a big enough mob, then the Met Police will say, we can't do anything because they've got such numbers, we've just got to stand and take the knee and help them out and hand them water.
So that's the thing they always say, isn't it, Josh, that ultimately their priority is keeping the peace. So if you have a massive mob and one person is defying the mob, they have to move the person away?
That person and then threaten arrest in this case, which is what they did.
Yeah, which they've done before with other... Do you remember the guy with the sign saying Hamas are terrorists?
Yeah,
and
exactly,
he's the guy they pulled away.
And they still target him, even though he's went to court to have the right to show this poster. But, yeah, they've basically... This Gideon Foster said that there's been hostile actors involved and there's threats, so they're going to be targeting. I, myself, have been planning to go. I've had it in my diary for the last week since this was announced. I was going to go along and meet up with everybody, have my yarmulke ready to
look openly Jewish.
To look openly Jewish. And he sort of said, oh, people can still go, but I've got to be honest, I'm a bit scared. And I'm...
Well, if they're saying, they're worried about the security
I thought
issues...
if I was going with them...
Yes.
And the other thing is, like, if I was attacked, I would like it to be filmed. Like, I don't want it to be... Of course. There has to be at least two people. Someone else has to...
I'd be happy
You'd be the guy.
So you come along
I can bring some people, Josh.
I don't mind getting beaten up, but I just don't want it to be like getting beaten up in the woods.
No, it's got to be a viral hit.
It's got to be, it's got to be, But now someone's going to look at this... If I do get beaten up, now someone's going to be like, look... The Jews, Mossad had some thing and it was all said ahead of time. So maybe don't beat me up, and that's like a double, triple bluff.
Just don't show your hand.
Don't show my yarmulke.
Don't do any of that. All right. OK, well, we're going to finish this section with this story from The Independent. And this is to do with a certain social media influencer, Andrew Tate. Josh.
Indeed, Andrew Tate and brother to be tried on trafficking charges in Romania court rules. So they've been held since 10 months. This is when they were originally charged, but now it's like this court case is going ahead.
It's going ahead, and they were trying to stop it from going ahead, weren't they?
It can still be appealed, but they had to go through all the evidence, the prosecutors, and they said, we've got the case here, and now we're going to do it.
OK. So there's very little to say about that, because...
Kind of, but it's interesting. It feels like that we've crossed peak Tate. There was peak Tate was maybe around that a year ago, and it feels now like...
Well, yeah, because the establishment came from him and shut down all his social media. And this feels like, I believe, as a good progressive person, I believe that sex work is real work. So pimp work is real work. This is pimp shaming.
Pimp shaming, that's one I haven't heard before.
He said he had to sleep with, like, 5 women a day to keep everybody happy.
He put so much effort into that job.
And he had to do it well. Like, that was the point. He couldn't just call it in. Like old married.
I know so little about what it takes to be a pimp, but what I would suggest is if he's broken the law, then he needs to be held accountable.
Absolutely, and then that's why you have a trial, and
that's why, and that's also why we can't really talk about it, because we don't know what the outcome's going to be.
No, I just think we're over it.
I just think it's blatantly the establishment coming for somebody.
OK, right. Well, that is halfway. In the second half, we're going to be discussing the policing minister confusing the countries of Rwanda and the Congo on Question Time, the Labour Party competing with Lord Cameron to woo Trump, and Saudi Arabia's first opera. Stay tuned.
Hello again, good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another cold night tonight, and rain will spread into the south and east through this weekend, with the best of the dry weather around the north and west once again, much as it has been throughout this week. But to the south we've got low pressure arriving and some weather fronts through this evening. So for some heavy rain for many southern counties of England through this evening, as well as southern areas of Wales by tomorrow morning. There's going to be a lot of cloud around, so it will be a milder night across the south. However, in the north, with cloud clearing and it turning much drier, it's going to be another cold start on Saturday morning. We could be down as low as -4 or 5, so expect frost rurally for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there will be, as today, lots of sunshine around, particularly across the north and west. The best of the sunshine will be through the morning. Cloud will bubble up into the afternoon. But across central areas, parts of Wales and into the Midlands, it's going to be quite a cloudy and cold feeling day. And into the southeast, we'll start to see some showery outbreaks of rain, but in any sunshine, it will start to feel that much milder, with highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Now on Sunday, as I said, it is turning much wetter. This swathe of rain moves up to the north and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Saturday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, I'm here with Josh and Leo. We're going to go on with The Telegraph now, and this is a video that's gone viral, a bit embarrassing for the policing minister.
That's right. So the policing minister, Chris Philp, has been ridiculed on Question Time for asking if Rwanda and Congo are different countries. Little hint there, they are different countries.
They are different countries. But look, geography is tough.
Geography is tough. He's the policing minister, and also he was, basically an audience member who said that he came from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, asked him, had my family members come from Goma, which is a city on the country's border, on a crossing right now, would they be sent back to the country they're supposedly warring, Rwanda? Does that make any sense to you? And Mr. Phillips said, no, I think there's an exclusion on people from Rwanda being sent to Rwanda. So he's obviously confused.
He was confused by the way it was
phrased. He was confused by the way it's phrased. And also, I'm glad he doesn't know. Why should a policing minister in this country know the geography of Africa?
Well,
I want him to focus on policing in this country. He should definitely wipe any knowledge he has of Africa out of his head. I want him to know about British things mostly. And would this audience member, if I quizzed him about, so what's bigger, Money Ive or Thornhill or Pen Punt, he's not going to know. He's not an expert on Southwest Scotland's geography.
I think we should have a look at the clip so we can see what we're dealing with here.
No, I think there's an exclusion on people from Rwanda being sent to Rwanda.
They're not from Rwanda, they're from Congo.
They're from Congo.
And they're supposedly warring these people from Rwanda. Are they then going to be sent to Rwanda if they came here on a crossing?
From
Congo? Yeah.
Surely, Josh, that's forgivable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is confusing. I'm confused. I've read it 3 times. I still don't understand what's going on. I'm pretty certain that they are separate countries. But I think the reason was he was trapped in his brain because he was trying to make a point that there's an exclusion within the bill that you're not going to be sent to somewhere that could cause it. So he was trying to make that point and then was confused about how he could try and make it. Also, he was taught by a teacher's assistant.
Yeah,
so we have to forgive him for geography.
Yeah, well, how's your African geography?
Let me do my Congo accent?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
Because your accents are terrible. Not because I think it'll be misconstrued as racist.
I want to hear it.
He was doing his Italian the other day. Leo, I mean, look.
I'm from the Congo.
What is that?
That's my Congo accent.
What? But that's Scottish.
But Congo grew up in Scotland. In Ireland.
But look, ultimately, I know that I think a couple of Labour MPs have thrown this out and said, this is outrageous, etc. But the thing is, you can always catch a politician out about general knowledge, can't you? I mean, really easily.
Yeah, or just basic arithmetic, or most things.
Yeah.
We don't have the calibre of political figures we really need. And that's because they're subjected to so much scrutiny that who'd want to be a politician?
Yeah, it seems a bit unfair to me. Anyway, we're going to stick with the Telegraph now. The Labour Party is competing with Lord Cameron to curry favour with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, they have to, don't don't they, Josh? Because ultimately we all know Trump is probably going to win it.
That's how it looks on paper. Labour competing with Cameron to woo Trump. David Lammy's gone over to America like 6 times in the last year. They made a mistake last time when Trump got in because no one sort of reached out to him and that kind of soured relations.
And with Trump, that's a big problem.
Yeah, because it's all about kissing his bottom.
Basically, he likes people who like him and dislikes people who dislike him. It's as simple as that. That's all the politicians
I think most of us are like that. To a degree.
We grow out of it a little bit.
No, I'm still like that.
Are you? OK, fair enough. You're a lot like Trump, I thought.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If someone likes me, I'm sort of willing to forgive
But
them.
Lammy, I mean, I can't imagine David Lammy liking Trump particularly.
No, and also David Cameron has said in his book, he said, he was xenophobic and misogynistic, because this is in 2019, before he was thrown the lifeline to resurrect his political career, which should never have happened. Anyway, but yes, and there's also been a senior advisor went along to a drinks reception at the British Embassy in Washington.
Yeah.
I believe Ferrero Rocher was served. Everybody will be happy to...
In a pyramid form.
That's the only way to serve it.
Now, Leo, the thing is, they are just being very pragmatic here. I mean, he's going to be in charge. You're going to have to forge a decent relationship.
Yeah, and also Trump is surprisingly pragmatic and sort of into realpolitik. I don't know what the verb for that is himself. Like, so he's, even if you kiss his bottom, there's no guarantee that he's going to cut you any special favours or any deals. He's still going to be pushing for Europe to not, send cheap goods to America and pushing for Europe to fund
but
its own share of NATO.
He does bear grudges. Like, if he thinks that the ruling party in the UK don't like him, he's not going to help at all.
His whole political career is based on a grudge.
Exactly.
It's all from that Washington dinner.
It was when Obama offended him, and he's like, I'm going to do it then.
I'll show you.
I mean, it's so childish, isn't it? But unfortunately, that is the situation we're in.
You're really committed to it, though.
Yeah, I mean, kind of respect that, to be fair.
You've got to respect that a little bit. OK, we're going to move on to the Times now. Saudi Arabia is keen to modernise.
Yeah, so Saudi Arabia's first opera sets the stage for a kingdom keen to modernise. Somebody should tell them that opera is not modern. It's from the old days. If you want modern stuff, you want a Transformers movie.
Or K-pop.
K-pop, something like that.
Saudi Arabian K-pop.
Not entirely sure what that is.
Pop.
But yeah, until recently, mixed-gender shows were banned in Saudi Arabia, but an influx of foreign stars of sports, stage and screen, because they love having money, shows the regime's desire to show a new open side. So this guy, Saleh Zamanan, was asked to write the libretto for Saudi Arabia's first opera. He dusted off this ancient Arab legend of Zarqa al-Yamama, a soothsayer whose prophecies were ignored before a king stabbed out her eyes, which is actually government policy in Saudi Arabia. So that's, but yeah, I mean, I think it's better than funding Wahhabist madrasas in the UK. So it's good there.
I don't know if you've ever been to the opera, but
that's the thing, Josh. I mean, you might say opera is not the most modern way forward, but on the other hand, given that this is Saudi Arabia where they kill people for being gay, it's a step forward to go for the opera, which is one of the gayest art forms.
That's interesting. This is appealing. Do you think this is like a sub-message?
Yeah, like...
So opera washing?
Maybe a little bit. Although let's not forget that Saudi Arabia is still pretty backward on all sorts of things. Women's rights, gay rights, all that sort of... I mean, it's not like putting on an opera is going to make all that go away.
if they'd done an opera about a journalist visiting an embassy, get a visa, maybe that could have been a bit more cutting edge. We'll see. They're up to...
Well, look, you've got to make small steps, especially when you from a society that is so...
There is stand-up there now as well. There's been stand-up there for but people are going across. There's a bit of... I remember going to the first stand-up gigs I did in the UAE like 20 years ago. Like, whatever you do, don't say... There was a certain word you couldn't say, and also don't say anything about the royal family. They were like so...
Oh, really?
Like, here, we live in a great country. I can say, whoa, the Queen's fit. And it's all good. I can do it on telly.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get fired after the show, but
okay,
you can do it.
But I won't be killed, hopefully.
No, but that'll be interesting. So, would you do stand-up in Saudi Arabia?
How much are you offering?
Maybe you and me go over, the gay and the Jew. I think it would go down really well there.
The gay and the Jew and Leo?
And Leo, yeah.
That'd be like, when Joe Pesci gets made in Goodfellas or Casino or whatever. It's like, where's the gig?
OK, well, let's move on now. The Daily Mail now. And, this is Mount Fuji, beautiful, and to be blocked up.
Crazy.
Why?
Japanese town erects giant 65-foot screen to block off the views of Mount Fuji to put off disrespectful tourists at overcrowded photo spots.
You're going to have to explain this one.
But we've seen the tourist spots around the world. They've got their camera phones now. They want their selfies. And there's one spot in this town, and they're dropping rubbish, and they're parking badly, and the locals are sick of it. And they're like, and people are climbing up on some dentist's roof. They're like, no, you know what? We're going to block it off.
But that means they're punishing absolutely everyone for the behaviour of a few rogue tourists.
Yeah, but there's more than a few. There's been like 3 million of them. And we're seeing this. We did a story the other day about Venice. There now. There's so many tourists.
So you punish everyone?
That's the idea. So no one can see it. What you could do is buy some Mount Fuji bottled water and stick it up.
I mean,
or you could walk. The billboard is just 65 feet, so you can just walk around it,
Yeah,
and
the
then
fat
you can
Americans aren't
still
gonna walk 70 feet.
from all other angles. You can still see Mount Fuji.
Yeah, but I really object to this. I think it's not their right to block out this.
I think it's Japan. It's their country. They've kept it Japanese.
Right.
And yeah, but what's interesting is so many tourists actually sort of agree with this, and more than half of British people said they'd be less likely to visit a location if they were aware of locals protesting or complaining about over-tourism.
But I thought tourism was good for the locals. I thought they'd want more tourism.
But not in Japan. Not when you're building microchips and stuff.
Better for the economy.
You don't need to sell a beer for €1.
But unfortunately, the problem with tourism is tourists.
Yep.
That's the problem.
You know what this reminds me of? You know, in the 18th century, the priest who owned William Shakespeare's house, New Place in Stratford, there were so many tourists coming to rip a branch of the juniper bush that Shakespeare had planted that he demolished the whole house. So now we don't have the house anymore. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, one last section to go. We've got the secret to eternal youth, the Great Reset conspiracy, and a flamethrower-wielding robot dog. You don't want to miss that.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prince Harry, remember him? He appears to have fully turned his back on the UK as he listed his primary residence as the United States for the very first time in papers published yesterday. So interestingly, Harry listed the date on the formal US residency forms as the 29th of June 2023, last year. So that was the very same day he was kicked out of Frogmore Cottage in Great Windsor Park by his dad, the King. Charlotte, thank you for joining me. Okay. Are we just putting two and two together here with the significance of this date? Because there were stories during the rounds today that Harry chose that date specifically because he was so hurt about being booted out of Frogmore by his dad.
Yeah, I mean, to me it feels like he's trolling his dad a bit, because he could have said that he's been a US resident since 2020 when he quit the UK and moved to the States, but instead he chose the exact day that his dad kicked him out of Frogmore. But the reason his dad kicked him out of Frogmore was because he'd slagged off Camilla in Spare. And, you know, and his dad, apparently it was a really difficult decision for Charles, because, of course, no dad wants to kick their son out of their home. But he went beyond the pale. So Charles took the difficult decision to say, look, Frogmore's been empty for years anyway. We've spent £2.4 million doing it up for you. And now you've, you know, insulted our family in your book, Spare. Why is he so hung up on Frogmore? Because this is the country he was desperate to get away from. This is a house he didn't particularly want to live in and, in fact, didn't live in.
Well, he was forced, by the way, to pay £2.5 million to fund the renovations after it all kicked off. I mean, would that have anything to do with...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that sort of galvanised his anger towards the whole situation. He thought he was getting a fantastic freebie. And there was, you know, there were a few reports at the time that Meghan actually thought she was moving into Frogmore House, which is a much grander property. And she sort of felt a bit sort of tricked or confused and hadn't quite realised it was actually a cottage, which is only a mere, I think it was only a mere 8 bedrooms.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Saturday's newspapers. We're going to kick off with the Telegraph now. Josh, you got this one.
Yeah, it's OK to call your boss a D/K, but only once court rules. This is in Spain, where it seems impossible to be fired. There's a word called, I think we're Ofcom because it's a foreign word, we're allowed to say it, gilipollas.
Which means...
the stupid idiot, but a
bit more crude.
Stupid Willy.
But you are... So the court is basically saying it's fine as long as you don't make a habit of it.
That's the gist of it, yeah. I mean, you're my boss. I don't know if I'm... So I would technically... If we were in Spain, I could call you at one time.
Yes.
And that's it.
We're not in Spain, Josh.
No, so I will keep myself to myself for this story.
You wait until I leave as normal.
Yes, exactly. Put it on Twitter.
And I can find out from the recording devices I've had installed.
Cleverly put around the room, yes.
Also, that you got to see that he called his boss the slur because he was told there's a meeting he must attend at 2:55 p.m, 5 minutes before the end of his shift. I mean, is that not the most stereotypically Spanish thing you've ever heard?
Yeah.
That's like, oh, we're going to work till 3 p.m. What do they think they are? Teachers.
Yeah.
OK, we're going to move on now to the next story in The Guardian, The Secret to Eternal Youth. Leo.
So this is John Cleese extolling the virtues of stem cell treatment. He's been having stem cell treatment for the past 2 decades at this private Swiss clinic, paying £17,000 roughly every year for stem cell therapy that he credits for looking not bad for his age. So he's 84 years old, and he thinks it's going to also buy him a few extra years. But experts say that there's no clinical trials that have proved or shown the efficacy of this or the safety of it.
But my understanding is stem cells sort of create every other cell in the body, so there's surely got to be something to it, right?
But as you get older, they don't do that as well.
Don't they?
That's the idea, that the body doesn't accept them as well. But, another way of looking at this is that you, Andrew Doyle, saved his life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you produced the show that he came on the channel. That must have paid for a couple of years of his treatment.
Well, I don't know if he used that money specifically to pay for
it might have gone, I'm going on GBNews, this is my life-saving money. So I'm just saying, you have saved John Cleese's life.
And also stem cells sometimes work and they don't know why. So when people have got severed spinal cords, in China they inject the stem cell serum into the spinal fluid, and people get feeling back in their legs. They move their legs again, and it tails off, and they don't know why. But it clearly, there's something going on.
I mean, it feels like, why not? Exactly. But I was saying to you earlier, the thing about the tortoises can't get cancer.
Yeah.
They regenerate. Maybe we need to. You
were saying also about how, Queen Camilla, maybe she's had some of it.
I didn't say that.
Just that might be why she's looking so good.
Radiant.
You're obsessed with how good Camilla's looking.
I just think, look, she's never done it for me in the past.
And now you're...
And I'm looking, I'm going, something's clicking there.
The royal family they've got experience with Photoshop now. So
yeah, it could just be an airbrushing situation.
Okay,
I think we should stop objectifying.
I'll delete that wallpaper.
Okay,
then.
Let's move on to the Metro, the Great Reset. Josh, I hear this phrase a lot.
Yes.
The Great Reset. Talk to us. What's this story about? What's going on?
So we actually mentioned yesterday. It was on the front page. There's a school in Manchester in Stockport where they're teaching this Great Reset, and it's a rehash of the sort of 1960s, 70s conspiracy theory of the New World Order, which is itself a rehash of a 1920s. Basically, they're sort of saying Jews taking over the world.
But this doesn't mention Jews in the...
It does. The earlier ones do.
It's interesting that you did, Josh. What do you know?
But anyway, the Great Reset is based on a real thing. The WF, the World Economic Forum, put out this idea of a Great Reset, which was a fairer economic and social system.
Yes.
And into that space, because it happened around COVID time, a lot of people have gone because Nick's got that whole thing about eating the bugs. This is part of it. The 15 minutes. Cities. So all of this ties into it. And like these conspiracies, even though there's contradictions and people can sort of justify what they want to, but the main thing is that, and I remember speaking to someone around that time, being in the cab, and this guy was going on about it to me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, what? It's backfired. The whole point is, if there was this thing where COVID happened, it was deliberately created to stick people at home. Well, we're obviously not at home. We're out and about now. And I'd say, if anything, people have actually become more aware of their rights and more needing to fight for their rights.
Lockdown revealed to the government and to the establishment that people will throw away their rights for an ounce of illusionary safety, and that's a value.
Do you think that people learn the lesson?
People always thought that no, not at all. I think people are hankering for another lockdown. They're like, punish me harder, Daddy.
Yeah, but Leo, this idea. I mean, this school is teaching other conspiracy theories. People never stop with the satanic cabal that runs the world. They go on to dinosaurs didn't exist, the moon landings were fake.
Dinosaurs didn't exist.
And these teachers aren't going off sick and getting replaced by teaching assistants. I'm sending my kid to this school. Right. It sounds brilliant.
You think this is valuable? I think this is an incredible...
You'd have to move to Stockport.
I'll do it. It's worth it.
Wow, that's...
Whatever it costs.
But why can't they just stop at the one conspiracy theory? Why
also, because if you've eaten in Stockport, the food is like insects.
Is that what it is?
So that's justifying, like, oh, look, we're eating insects, so this is why it is.
OK, well, that's the Great Reset covered. I think we've covered that pretty comprehensively. Well done, both of you. I'm still not convinced, if I'm completely honest with you. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so we're going to have another quick look at Saturday's front pages. So the Daily Mail is leading with our main story of the day, which is that the King is well enough to go back to work. There's a picture of him there with Queen Camilla. The Guardian, who Josh is apparently very enamoured by. The Guardian has got scale of teacher shortage crisis in schools revealed. The Eye has a story about chicken farms and the toxic gas surge that emits thereof. The Times has got King returns to public life. The Telegraph also returning with the story of King Charles. That is all we've got time for, however. Thank you ever so much to my guests, Josh Howie and to Leo Kearse. We are back tomorrow at 11 o'clock, where Josh will be in the hosting chair with Nick Dixon and Paul Cox. And by the way, if you are watching the 5 a.m. repeat of Headliners, please do stick around, because now it's time for breakfast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another cold night tonight, and rain will spread into the south and east through this weekend, with the best of the dry weather around the north and west once again, much as it has been throughout this week. But to the south we've got low pressure arriving and some weather fronts through this evening. So some heavy rain for many southern counties of England through this evening, as well as southern areas of Wales by tomorrow morning. There's going to be a lot of cloud around, so it will be a milder night across the south. However, in the north, with cloud clearing and it turning much drier, it's going to be another cold start on Saturday morning. We could be down as low as -4 or 5, so expect frost rurally for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there will be, as today, lots of sunshine around, particularly across the north and west. The best of the sunshine will be through the morning. Cloud will bubble up into the afternoon. But across central areas, parts of Wales and into the Midlands, it's going to be quite a cloudy and cold feeling day. And into the southeast, we'll start to see some showery outbreaks of rain, but in any sunshine, it will start to feel that much milder, with highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Now on Sunday, as I said, it is turning much wetter. This swathe of rain moves up to the north and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
(2024), a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday the 2nd of May,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
We'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax.